Welcome everyone to Couch Potato Diary. Happy Friday. It's a fighting Friday. My name is Peter Klein. Thank you very much for tuning in today. As always, this show presented by Sea of Dead. Check out seaofdead403.ca for that great Calgary swag. Also, check out swiftenergy.gg. Use the code PKPrimetime. Get that fuel for your game streams, for your podcasts, whatever you're doing in your day. The fuel is provided by Swift Energy. Coming up on this show, it is the fights to make coming out of big boxing cards that happened a couple of weeks ago with Tank Davis and with Beterbiev Bivol. These are the fights I would like to see made coming out of these. And so again, the caveat that I'm going to put on the rest of the podcast for a while, I'm off in Japan right now, so taping these a little bit early. So if something has changed with these fights, this is more what I would like to see done. A little bit of predicting what is next, but more what I would like to see done. So that is the route we are taking today. So it's all about the combat sports. It's all about boxing. Let's get into the fights to make coming out of some mega shows that we have had in the last few weeks. We have had some seismic fights in the world of boxing over the last few weeks here and just in the start of 2025. And so today we're going to look at what is next for some of the big combatants in some of those fights. So we are going to start with fights to make coming out of the Beterbiev Bivol card of the century. Let's start with Josh Buatsi coming off of just an incredible fight with Callum Smith at the start of that. I have him against Anthony Yarde. Yarde has won 3 in a row after a loss to Beterbiev, and Buatsi looked really good, and I think even with a loss against Callum Smith, deserves a high-level opponent. And so Yarde, he's not the highest of high levels, but I think this is right in the neighborhood that you would like to see him in. So I think this one makes a whole lot of sense for Buatsi and for Yarde as well, who, again, he is looking to build up a resume and gets a very quality opponent here in a Buatsi. This is probably telegraphing what I think could be coming up a little bit later on. But Callum Smith, I have him against David Benavidez. Benavidez is ready for a really big step up after a couple of good wins, a really good win against Morrell Jr. about a month ago from when you're going to be seeing this. And so, look, it is not the epic step-up fight that we thought that there could be, but this is still a very strong fighter and someone who will test to make sure that he is ready for those gigantic steps forward in probably quarter number 3 or 4. Here in 2025. So it's not the Beterbiev fight. It's not the Bivol fight that maybe we thought we were going to get with him, but it is still a good fight for him to have as he works his way in the light heavyweight division. Zhilei Zhang, I didn't have one for, to be perfectly frank. So just anyone who is a heavyweight, get this guy, keep him rolling. He's still a fun fighter to watch. If this was it, then it's been a fun career, but I just kind of anybody for Zhilei Zhang next is where I would go. Which brings us to Israel Madrimov. I have him against Serhei Bohachuk. Bohachuk knows what happens when you lose to Vergil Ortiz. He bounced back with a win. Now let's see if Madrimov can do it. So both these guys right now coming off of, like, Madrimov, big fight against Terence Crawford, big fight against Vergil Ortiz, but now we're starting to move back down the rankings a little bit. And Bohachuk looking to bounce back after a loss to Vergil Ortiz. So let's see where these two interesting fighters are and see where they can kind of fit in the division or where they want to go from here. But I think that's a good kind of testing fight. And again, for a few of these, and understanding, like I followed mixed martial arts a bit more closely than I do the world of boxing. And so because of that, there is a little bit of that old like UFC matchmaking in me. So I can fully understand if Madrimov wants to fight a guy who is 9-42-1, then just to get back in the win column, completely understand that. But in terms of like the next real competitive fight, I would like to see this would be that. Speaking of guys who have beat Madrimov, they both come together with Vergil Ortiz and Terence Crawford. There was so much buzz about a Terence Crawford fight against Canelo Alvarez. That is not happening around Cinco de Mayo weekend now, at least at the time of this, the time that I'm recording this. So I think after that, the next big fight is Vergil Ortiz, and I think Ortiz has earned it. If not, then maybe a move up to 160 and a fight with Hamza Shiraz, who was on this card, could be maybe a bit of an interesting way to go for Vergil Ortiz. But I think he put on such an amazing performance to neutralize what Madrimov can do and the speed and the movement that he has. I think he is deserving, and I think he is ready for a big step up in competition in a Terence Crawford. So I would love to see that type of a move for him. Speaking of Hamza Shiraz, I have him against the Etnosa Olia and Kyron Davis loser. The winner of that fight gets an IBF title shot, and so that is not Shiraz's belt. But I do think that this at least keeps Shiraz in the area of championship conversation, because there is still a talented fighter there. Not as talented as the judges saw, but he is still a talented fighter who is deserving to kind of be in that next conversation in the middleweight division. I just think that it's a good kind of bounce back to see, like, where actually are you? And a win in this, and all of a sudden you are right back into title contention. A loss, and we need to really reassess what we are doing with this fighter. So I think from a matchmaking standpoint, that is the one that probably makes the most sense. Carlos Adames, his next fight I have against Arislandi Lara. Adames is the WBC middleweight champion. Lara is the WBA middleweight champion. It just makes sense to bring them together. And so I think that is the fight to make, coming off of a pretty good performance there from Carlos Adames. Shakur Stevenson, I have him against the Tank Davis Lamont Roach Jr. winner, which again, probably gives away what I'm thinking a little bit later on. But Shakur has put on some defensive clinics. Now that he's moved on from ESPN and Top Rank, he wanted big fights. Tank Davis is that big fight that he is looking for. And now the Tank Davis fight against Lamont Roach didn't exactly provide the satisfactory outcome that everyone was hoping for, so Stevenson may have to wait for this one. But he was obviously banged up with a bit of a hand injury coming off of that fight in Saudi Arabia. And so I think this gives him a little bit of time to just step back, relax, let the bones in your hand heal, and really see where the winner comes from in a Tank Davis Lamont Roach Jr. rematch. Let them solve what they need to solve, and then Stevenson can step back in and face the winner of that one. Martin Bakole, who did not exactly shower himself in glory in Saudi Arabia, I have him against Efe Agjaba. It was supposed to be Bakole's fight in May anyway. He needs to get back on track, and so he would need to be impressive in this showing. I don't think he hurt his stock to the point where he needs to take a lesser fight. He certainly didn't improve his stock in Saudi Arabia. So just give him the fight he was going to have before. If you need to push it, that's fine. But I do think that he entered this fight in kind of one area and exited this fight in kind of one area. So I don't think that you need to alter too many different plans when it comes to Bakole. Daniel Dubois comes out of this one having not fought. I still think you give him Alexander Usyk next. And that's probably not fair to the heavyweights that were on this card. But like Dubois, supposed to be on this. A lot of people thought he was going to win. And so that was going to set up something with Usyk. Instead of, because I feel like Parker coming off of a Bakole win, that's not what you want to get ready for the pound for pound number 1 or number 2 fighter in the world. So give him another opportunity to build up a little bit, and don't make Usyk wait because Dubois got sick and let them kind of mess around. We know where we were trying to get to anyway. Let's not boxing this up. Let's just get to it. Let's unify these championships again. Let's have an undisputed champion out in Riyadh again, probably. And let's just get this done here. I feel like Parker and Kabayel are on really good levels, and this is again telegraphing where we're probably going to go next with this one. I think having Dubois fight Parker or fight Kabayel or fight almost anyone else just feels like it's killing time, and it's not fair to the last little bit of Usyk, right? Like, he is 37 years old, so let's keep getting that guy in this ring. Let's keep taking advantage of one of the great fighters that we've had of the last 25 years, and not let him sit on the shelf so we can figure out whose ass he's supposed to kick next. And now, I would pick Usyk in a fight against Dubois, but I do also think that he has built up his skills to a point where this is an intriguing rematch. So I think all the things kind of play into this one, that it all makes so much sense with Daniel Dubois getting this chance. So that does leave 2 other heavyweights on this card. Let's put them together. Parker against Kabayel, I think, makes the most sense. They both fought on this card. They both looked impressive. They're both in the top 5 in Ring Magazine rankings right now. So I think this makes the most sense to have these 2 guys fight each other. Let's really see. And I think genuinely, if you did this, around the same time as a Dubois-Usyk fight, the next title challenger for what would presumably be a unified or an undisputed heavyweight championship, the next title challenger should be coming out of this one with two very, very interesting fighters in the heavyweight division. And then we get to the main event fighters. I think, again, we are telegraphing where we are going to go with this. They've each won one apiece. Let's do the trilogy. Beterbiev, Bivol, I have them facing each other again. We'll probably have to wait a little bit. These guys had a pretty tight turn to get back in the ring so quickly. So this might not be a 2025 fight. And so that is why we're down the card a little bit, giving Benavidez another fight against the good fighter in Callum Smith, but another one. If Bivol wants to wait a little bit, or if one of them is injured, then one of them gets Benavidez, one of them gets Callum Smith, honestly. And you just do... a lot of my matchmaking with these kind of sets up like these mini tournaments, but I think you could do that where, all right, if they want a break and just want to look at someone else's film for a little bit, then you go Bivol against Benavidez, you go Beterbiev, Callum Smith, winner face winner, and we still do undisputed light heavyweight championship on the line in those fights. I feel like eventually you need to do a trilogy with these guys. We talked about it in the first one, how these are legacy defining fights for these two guys, and kind of defining who was the light heavyweight of the generation, getting these two guys in the ring there at the same time. And there's always the Canelo fight, where he is always kind of looking for his next opportunity to try to avenge a loss in this division and work his way up there. So those are the fights that I would make coming off of Beterbiev against Bivol. What about the Tank Davis-Lamont Roach Jr. one? Well, this one did not really have the stacked undercard of the fight card of the century, so we're just going to look at what should be next for the two main event fighters. And much like the Riyadh main event, this one also was so nice we should get it twice. As Tank Davis and Lamont Roach Jr., the next fight I have for both of them is each other. At this point, I think you have to do a rematch. A draw makes it a very easy rematch. I think Lamont Roach Jr. now is taken more seriously, and so I think it is a bigger draw than the first one was, instead of just, hey, here's Tank Davis. I think that you can put Tank in now a bit of a challenging situation, build up that drama a little bit more, and probably sell a few more tickets, and or if nothing else, sell them for more money this go around. But it's a fight both guys are clamoring for, so why not go for it? If you're not going to go with the rematch, then I think you do get Tank against Stevenson. I think you probably go against Roach, or with Roach against Keyshawn Davis for 3 of the 4 belts, and then you get the Roach Davis winner to fight Loma, and the winner of that faces Tank against Stevenson to unify all the championships. And so I think, like, to get to that unified spot, which is where I think a lot of people are looking to get to with Riyadh season and with Turkey being in boxing and all of those things, I think to get to that, it makes sense to have the Roach Davis side of things, which would be the B side in a lot of these, have to take that little bit of an extra whatever. Maybe it's not the most fair, but in terms of draws, in terms of power in the sport, I think it makes the most sense to kind of have the Tank Stevenson fighter get the bye kind of to the finals of our pretend tournament again, and have Loma be able to have a bit of a buy into the semifinals at least, and meet the winner there along the way, and do kind of a super series thing there. So I think there is a path to unifying all of these belts, and I think it would be a path paved with a lot of very interesting fights. But I mean, the one thing that we can say out of all of this, and again, we've talked at length about what it means for boxing with Saudi Arabia to be involved from a purely these are the fights standpoint. It really does open up the matchmaking possibilities in ways that we just haven't seen in this sport before. And who knows what is coming next with this TKO, Dana White, Turki Al-Sheikh thing that is coming up in the sport of boxing. But right now, these are the fights I would make for the guys who put on the best and maybe worst shows for boxing fans over the last month or so. That is going to do it for the show today and for the week here on Couch Potato Diary. Thank you so much for hanging out today. Again, if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you leave a comment. Who would you like to see these guys face next? Leave that in the comment section below, and a subscribe would be greatly appreciated. You can also get this wherever you go in podcast form, available wherever you get your podcasts. If you are listening in the podcast genre, make sure you give this a review, leave a rating, and either subscribe or follow or whatever you need to do in your podcast app. But really trying to grow these things. It's been a blast chatting with all you guys this week. Next week, it is all about the baseball previews as we ramp up to the start of the Major League Baseball season. So thank you guys so much. Have a great weekend. I'll talk to y'all later. I am out.